So, okay guys, hello, welcome to my channel, Julius Live. For today's video, I'm going to do an interview again to this person right next to me, of course, my husband, Justin, the turtle whisperer, okay?
Turtle Whisper?
Yeah. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah?
Exactly.
Shark whisperer or something like that.
Turtle.
Right, so guys, I never really told you about Justin's story. He has had a pretty interesting life. So I wanted to interview him so you guys can hear his crazy story, of course. So, hello dear. How are you? Happy?
Well, hello, wife.
Thank you for doing this. People ask me about you all the time, and thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Okay, so I have my questions prepared right here, so let's get started. So are you ready?
Yeah.
I hope you are,
Okay.
but I want you to answer it like directly,
Short answer?
short answer, but
Okay.
a little bit of elaboration.
Okay.
Okay, number one, my question is, so you've done more travel than most people in the world. So how did that get started and why? Why?
Well, how it started in 2010 because I really wanted to travel, so I found a university in Colorado that has international trips that you can get scholarships for and grants and stuff. So I was able to join one, and we ended up going to Southern Africa
Yeah.
as like a class. So South Africa, Mozambique, Zambia, Zimbabwe, saw some crazy stuff, especially because we're a small group of kids from a small town, Colorado.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cultural shocky, and that started my love for travel and spontaneous experiences. And by the end of the travel, I think that was like a 6 or 7 week trip.
Yeah.
By the end, I was like, there's no way I could go home. So I convinced my professor to leave me in Africa, and I was going to take a semester off and just travel on my own.
And by the way, how old are you during that during that?
I must have
that
been
time.
25.
Really?
Yeah, 25 or 6. I'm 34 now, or 35.
33. You're still young.
I'm 33?
Yeah. You forgot to
I don't
even.
know. That was 9 years ago, so 10, almost 10. Next month is 10 years actually, right?
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Whatever.
And then they left me in Africa, but I only had $400 to my name, and I had no support back home. I couldn't get any more scholarships. Obviously, I'm taking a semester off. I can't get. I don't have rich parents. If anything happens, that's a $2,000, $2,500 flight from Southern Africa all the way back home.
Don't worry, the U.S. government will going to have to carry
Yeah, I guess. But so I had $400 to my name, so I had to get a job right away. I had to in Africa, like under the table, just to pay for accommodation and food, stuff like that, and to keep traveling.
Oh, that's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, so
But-
that and I was supposed to take one semester off, and I ended up taking 2 semesters, 3 semesters, and now it's been 10 years I haven't been back.
So you love like traveling instead,
Yeah.
not just like okay, I'm not going to
My whole goal
just
to
stop.
start the trip was to find a way to sustain my travels because I love traveling. I wanted to see the world.
Yeah.
So I was studying. I wanted to learn how to start a business. But the only businesses for travel out there that I knew of were like a tour company or something like that.
Yeah.
So all I knew is I wanted to try. And then when I started the trip, I was like, I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to go home. I don't care what I have to do. If I have to work at hotels or whatever, I'm going to stay on the road. And it's been 10 years now. I haven't been back to school or back to Colorado even. I haven't seen my family, friends, nothing. It's been 10
Like you went
years.
home.
Yeah, I seen my mom, but she wasn't even in Colorado anymore. So I haven't seen my brothers, my other family, my friends, nothing. I haven't been back to Colorado since. I just found ways to keep traveling.
Yeah, but it's okay as long as you love what you do, you know?
Yeah, I was addicted. I mean, when they first said bye, last chance to catch your flight, you can't afford another flight home. Man, it was like being stranded on a remote island. It was the ultimate responsibility. There was nobody that could help me. There was nobody.
Do you you don't have any friends to like talk to?
Talk to, yeah, but I'm talking about like financially if something goes wrong or hell, you're just hungry or don't have a place to stay. I had nothing like that. I mean, I was in the
So
middle
you're-
of freaking Africa.
You're really going to like make sure that, oh my goodness, where I can get this amount of money to sustain my daily.
Yeah, my
you
whole
know?
goal was to sustain the travels. I did not want to go home. I've never been happier than on that trip.
Yeah.
But when I was about to go home back to school, I was never more depressed. I was like, I cannot go back to small town after what I've seen. And the biggest thing that I seen on that trip was possibilities, what's out there.
Yeah.
Just a glimpse of what I can see still, what else there is. Something that I never saw in small town Colorado that I didn't
But the
even
thing
know.
is, I mean, you are able to survive because you're striving.
Yeah,
to
I'm
look
still
forward.
going. I had $400 to my name in
Yeah.
2010, and I've still never got help from anybody, and I'm still going 10 years later. So,
So-
and I've seen a lot of the world, and that was the goal. I didn't know
Okay.
how I was going to do it at the time, but
So you only have $400 to your name, right? How did you survive and keep traveling? How about that?
well, right away I was in a Mozambique little town called Tofo, Tofo.
Tofu sounds like the food.
Yeah, they call it tofu.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce it. But right away, I knew I had to get a job. I got a job at the hostel there, or guest house, or whatever. They let me put my tent on their beach,
Yeah.
their like front lawn beach, and gave me free meals. And I worked at the hostel. I ran their internet cafe and reception and stuff like that. But I was also giving like referrals to the dive center that was down the road.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting dive certified myself, which opened another whole can of worms.
That's cool.
So, but the actual travel, so that's just one location. The actual travel, as soon as I would save up $20, I was on the road. I was hitchhiking, I was catching, if I saw some other people going my direction, I would ask them for a ride or make friends and get free rides. Africa, you can get a cheap bus, like a mini bus, Kwambi or whatever it's called, for like $2 or $3 for hours and hours of riding. So as soon as I had any money, I was just off to the next spot. Sometimes I would email ahead and say, "Hey, can I have a job when I arrive? Because I'm not gonna have any money."
You're so upfront.
Yeah, I mean the backpacker culture. I don't know about nowadays, but back then was pretty popular. It was they're used to getting email. All the hostels I went to had volunteers to pay for accommodation and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they were getting free labor and we were getting free food and accommodation, which is a big expense in travel. So that's what I did. I hitchhiked through Africa. I took cheap trains and buses. I mean, I was in nightmare situations with mini buses with 30 people in it that was only made to hold 11.
Yeah.
I mean, it's countless stories, but the whole time, I never ever had a negative thought or anything about the hardships. It was just like, oh my god, this is so amazing.
So,
I'm
like-
actually living.
See, like meeting like a lot of people, of course, they are strangers for you, right? I mean, you feel like afraid or scared or I don't know.
No, I think
Is it time to really?
no. I just I never felt hesitant at all, and I think I wasn't being brave. I was just mindless. I was not thinking about it. I jumped into situations now that I'm like, I want to do that again. You know, traveling solo through Africa is hard enough. It's the hardest place in the world. to travel, but doing it by yourself adds another element. Doing it with no money adds a huge element. If you have money, you can do anything, but when you have to hitchhike and sleep for free or sleep for at a $2 truck stop in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, it gets a lot harder. But I literally never thought of it. I never got worried, or I mean, I'd get malaria and I still didn't care. I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. It's like a adrenaline rush all the time. I'm like, I'm living. Look at all the stories.
You're not like afraid at all.
No, I like I said, I just never thought of it. I mean, scary is relevant. Some things scare some people, some don't. But for me, I was too dumb to think. I was just jumping.
Or
I
maybe
wasn't
you're
brave.
just like,
I don't think I'm not brave. I'm just not thinking about it.
no,
What could
maybe
happen.
you're just like, oh my god, this is it. It's just like way far from my like real life in America.
Well, for years I just thought, well, this is my chance. I need to do get every experience and story I can, because this is my once in a lifetime chance to do it. It's not going to happen again. But it's been going on 10 years now, so
You're doing great then.
it wasn't scary.
Yeah, so far, because you're not right next to
The
me.
scariest thing of the last 10 years was getting married. So yeah,
Especially,
it was less scary being in jail in Egypt, or getting robbed in Croatia, or getting robbed at gunpoint in Peru, or anything like that. Getting married was way scarier.
really.
Yeah.
Oh. So next. So what was your most memorable adventure? Tell me.
Adventure.
Kwando. Yes, adventure. Adventure.
There's so many. I mean, when you travel with no plan, no money, completely spontaneous. Like I remember, I would just get bored. I would meet somebody at a hostel, and we would just catch the next flight, no matter where it was going. So, like one time, I did that in Thailand with a friend. We ended up in Turkey. So when you travel like that, everything is an adventure, and you're not planning on it. You know, most people back home, they plan for months and months and months to do their week vacation. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they're going
From
to
where they're
like,
staying
book-
every single
book,
day,
Yeah.
the tours, the
Yeah.
itinerary up to the minute. But what I was doing is just, screw it. I'm tired.
Spontaneous.
I'm tired of Germany. I'm gonna hitchhike to this highway goes wherever,
Slovenia.
and I'll end up in Prague or in Czech Republic or Poland or wherever I end up. So many adventures. I guess that's a long, but actually one of the
Memorable.
biggest memorable
Memorable. Are you English?
stories would be hitchhiking almost every country in Europe.
Yeah.
40 or 30 something countries, almost 40. I did it with zero money. I never paid for one ride or one accommodation in all of Europe, and it was hard. I wouldn't be able to do it now. I'm too lazy and spoiled, but
You're too old.
Yeah.
You're too old to go on a babe.
but
To
I did it half. I did half of it with a friend. We hitchhiked all over Europe. Some countries are a lot easier than others. Sometimes we get a ride in 5 minutes. Other times we're sleeping in ditches for 2 days, trying to hide from the police so we could hitchhike in the morning.
scary.
We couch surfed. Couch surfing was a huge culture back then. Couchsurfing.org, I think it is, where you could have profiles and get rated if you're a good host or a good couch surfer. And you get on there and say, "Oh, I'm gonna arrive in Prague sometime tomorrow. Can I have a couch?" And all these people in Prague would be like, "Yeah, come stay with me." And we would do that for 1 to 5 days, whatever, and then hitchhike to the next city. So I did that for months, and I ended up seeing almost all of Europe. There's 1,000 little stories inside that one journey, but collectively that was insane. That was amazing.
I can tell that it was really
Yeah.
a craziest adventure
It'll
ever.
be, if I write a book one day, it'll be quite a few chapters, because I mean,
Yeah, you
30
spent, through a lot.
something countries, and that's just one trip. I went from Mexico to southern Brazil, overland, no flying. That took
Yeah.
months to do. A lot of countries. I did it Africa, like I said. That was crazy times. I did every continent except for Antarctica. So without flying, before I started making money, it was some crazy budget travel. So,
Yeah.
but hitchhiking all of Europe in one go was that was up there. So, yeah, at the end of that hitchhiking trip, I was tired. It was an amazing adventure and memories now, but uh, uh, it was also really hard work. I mean, you got to get up early. You got to walk through cities and find like the ultimate hitch point, we call it, and hitchhike all day sometimes in the rain and the whatever. Because if you don't have accommodation, you have to leave that day. It's free accommodation, so you can't ask for more. You have to leave that day. So sometimes it meant standing in the rain, the freezing weather, not sitting on the side of highways like huddled up waiting for a car. Miles and miles of walking every day. There's a website called HitchWiki something that hitchhikers collectively get together and tell you on the map what the best spots are, so you have to go find those. It's pretty cool, but
Really?
I was so tired by the end of it. I started looking at how to get paid to travel, how to sustain a travel lifestyle, and I started finding these travel blogs, and I found two in particular: WanderingEarl.com and EverythingEverywhere.com. And I'm like, how are they traveled as much as I did almost, but they were getting paid? How are they doing? It wasn't cheap travel like me. Like, how do they do it? So I ended up starting a travel blog like theirs, and that kind of rewrit my whole travel history up till now. Is starting that travel blog. I was in Tallinn, Estonia. I started the travel blog, and it just kind of turned into a business eventually, and sustained. It completely changed everything.
That's
So now ask your question about the blog.
so yeah, after you said it. So after you started your blog in Europe, then what did you do?
Well, I was in Estonia when I started the blog, like I said, but immediately after I didn't do much. I had to build it up, and I had a ton of stories because I just finished that huge hitchhiking trip.
Yeah.
So I was working on that, but eventually it started growing in popularity. I mean, not many people were writing like this. Not many people had these stories, and I wasn't just telling them my stories. I was telling them how to do it, how to travel on a budget, how to go here and there. So, because it wasn't just Europe, man. I had years of so many countries by then. I started gaining popularity, and I started getting little sponsors and little advertisers and making a little money. I was like, holy shit. I started realizing
There's money in it.
if I didn't have to work at hostels, which hostels are they're businesses, they're physical businesses where I had to stay in one city for however long so I can make money to go to the next place.
Yeah.
If I was making money online, I could travel forever. So as soon as I started making even $100, I was gone. So I did a big trip through the Balkans again after I started the blog. Romania, Bulgaria, Greece, Macedonia, Albania, Bosnia, every country. And then I started making more and more money. I started getting better ranking, a lot more traffic, a lot more followers on social media. So I started getting more advertisers. I was like, holy, this is insane. I can afford stuff. So, one thing I missed doing was scuba diving because that is not budget. And being on such a budget all these years, I couldn't afford to do it. But now I could. So I flew straight to Egypt. It's not far from Eastern Europe. And I started diving. And that also changed my whole history. Not perspective, my history. So now I had the blog and I could afford to dive. I started doing courses. I wanted to get as much experience and learning as possible. I got up to a dive master finished my dive master course, started learning underwater photography, and then the blog kind of evolved into scuba diving around
Travel. I mean,
Travel,
budget.
but scuba diving around the world.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the ultimate explorer, and I felt like exploring underwater was even more rare, more to see, more experiences. So in Egypt, when I started doing that, the blog really exploded, and I started getting press trips all over the world where they pay me to travel, and I was like, this is completely crazy. It was my dream. And on my very first press trip, they flew me from Egypt to Florida for a dive trip around South Florida. On that press trip was Gary Arndt, that owns Everything Everywhere, who was my original inspiration and all that. And I was so nervous, but in the end, we became friends, and he became my mentor. He completely changed my blog into a business. He changed my mind into business-minded.
You're lucky, man.
Because I didn't know. I was like, as long as I can make $100 every week or so, I could travel forever. But he's like, no, you need to turn this into a business and do it right. He completely, even to this day, that was a long time ago. Even to this day, we have meetings or chat sessions, and he just completely changed my whole mindset right there. So it just went from there. Press trip, getting paid more and more and more, sponsors and advertisers paying more and more, and it just completely changed everything, how I travel. I haven't hitchhiked since, but just completely changed after that, after I started the blog.
That's a nice one, huh? That's a great adventure.
It's definitely sustaining what I want to do.
Yeah. So you're able to figure it out how to like make money at the same time traveling.
Yeah, like I said, my first goal was just to pay for the actual travels. I never knew I could make money as well doing it.
Yeah. So next.
Yeah.
You ready?
Waiting.
So your blog took off while you were in Egypt and started getting popular. Did your travel style change when you started getting paid for it?
Yeah. Yeah, I can never go back now. Like I said, couch surfing, house to house for free, hitchhiking everywhere I went, $2 hostels, $2 bus rides across the country. I can't do it. I couldn't do it now. When I started getting paid to travel, even if some trips were paid for by somebody, and other trips I paid for, but I could afford it. I could afford better style, better hostel, better hotels, flights. So even if the trip wasn't paid for, which it usually was, I could afford some luxurious travel. Well, luxurious compared to what I was doing. So one funny story I could think of, I was still backpacker mindset, but with money.
Yeah.
So one time I was in Mexico. I did a whole trip with my friend Rob, through Central America. And we ended up in Mexico where we were starting a press trip with the Mexico Tourism Board. And they let me sometimes I brought somebody with me, and they let me bring him. And I was like, oh, this is my photographer. So they let me bring somebody. So we just got done hardcore backpacking through Central America, $2 hostels, all cheap long haul, 24-hour buses, stuff like that. We landed in the Yucatan off the bus, and they picked us up in a limo, like a van limo.
Limousine?
It was a stretched van, basically.
Yeah.
For this ultra luxury press trip through Mexico. So our first stop was Cozumel. They took us to Cozumel, took us to this resort, the nicest resort we'd ever stayed at, ever.
5-star?
Oh yeah, 5-star. It was like $3,000 a night minimum.
Yeah.
And our room was $3,000 a night. And plus all the diving and all that shit we did. So we walk in the door as these dirty backpackers, hadn't had a shower in like 2 days, dirty clothes that we wash ourselves in the sink once a week, and our 50-liter backpacks. Nobody in that hotel had ever walked in the doors with backpacks, I guarantee you. because the other people that were walking in to check in, they had like rolling Louis Vuitton suitcases, or they just come straight off the cruise ships. You know, they have those luggage carriers. The bellboys walk up and put your luggage on the carrier.
Okay.
I'll take your luggage to your room, sir. And so we did that. We walk in, they come over with a cold towel and a champagne, and we're like, ah, sweet, free booze. And then they're like, can we take your luggage, sir? And I'm like, no. They're like, what? You know, we're so used to not letting anybody carry our luggage because it gets stolen. But we're like, okay, fine. And we hand them like our dirty, cheap backpacks to put on this fancy luggage carrier. And they're like, okay, sir, I'll take these to your room.
It's so dirty then.
It was hilarious. We were backpackers, and we felt like the Beverly Hillbillies. I don't know if you know what that is, but we were out of our elements. But it just went from there. It's been like that ever. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have sponsors and we have 5-star resort, and the next week we're paying for it ourselves, so we stay in like a cheap hotel. I mean, we've never been in a dorm since you know, but still, sometimes we're taking cheap buses to get to a 5-star hotel, you know. So depends on what we're paying for. But yeah, the travel's definitely changed. Even if I'm paying for it myself, I haven't stayed in a dorm or hitchhiked or anything. So yeah, long story short, definitely changed.
Yeah. Okay. Next, that was nice. That was like great answer.
Yeah, definitely a lot of contrast, because one night we'll stay in a $10 hotel, the next just to wait for our next night, which is in a $1,000 hotel.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
It's hilarious. So next, babe, what's something you've learned once you started traveling?
The thing I learned is one of the things. I mean, there's countless, but when I first left Colorado, the thing I learned is to expect the unexpected, or prepare for the unexpected. I don't even know if that makes sense, but basically what I'm trying to say is so many experiences and things happened and opportunities came up that I had no idea even existed when I was living in small town Colorado. Just like when you started traveling with me, so many things pop up that you don't see online that you're like, I'm gonna go experience this. No, the best experiences you don't even know exist.
Yeah.
So if somebody's or people ask me all the time, how can I travel like this? I would say the biggest experiences you don't even know about yet. You know, like I have a career in travel blogging and video now. I had no idea that existed. It really didn't exist in 2010. You know what I mean? Like there was only a few. So I definitely wasn't planning on it. All I knew about how do I start a business in travel, I was thinking about a tour guide or something like that, you know, running an international hotel.
Just the general
The things that everybody knows about, but the opportunities, the people I've met, the careers, the stories, I didn't even know about. So don't leave home thinking you have one set of opportunities, because there's going to be way more. And it's a huge one, you know, to explore. Yeah.
So next.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the question now.
Yeah, you answered it well. So next,
Next.
What's the biggest paid trip you have been on?
Paid trip?
Paid trip, you know. Paid trip.
There's been so many. I mean, dollar-wise or time-wise? Like, I guess time-wise would be the Marriott trip.
Marriott Star Alliance trip.
Because after that, I was like, I'm not doing any trips that are that long anymore. So that trip, Marriott and Star Alliance, they teamed up and they sponsored a few bloggers. I was one of them, and I think Marriott was trying to promote their round the world itineraries or booking engine, whatever. So they gave me a budget and said, book your own itinerary, which is the ultimate. If you're a blogger for a while, you know sometimes even if it's a free trip, you get sick of their itineraries. You don't really want to see all this stuff, tour after tour. So being able to book your exact itinerary was awesome. So I just went a little too overboard and I booked way too much. So I went. I even had to ask Marriott for extra. I think I tripled their budget. I was like, no, I need like triple that
Yeah.
because there were so many nights of accommodation.
Yeah.
So that itinerary, I started in Guatemala. I flew.
California.
No, I was in Guatemala though.
Yeah.
Then I flew to California to Hawaii. And each spot I stayed at least a week and I did diving and whatever. So California, Hawaii, Japan to South Korea. Those were not really diving, but I'd never been there, so I was like taking advantage. I want to go there. Somebody else is paying. South Korea, I flew to Philippines, hung out there for just a week. I think it was my first time in No, it wasn't my first. It wasn't my first time in Philippines, but I stayed anyway. Then I went from Philippines to Singapore to
Maldives.
Yeah, Maldives. That was an amazing trip. Lots of diving. Maldives. I had a short layover in Turkey, and then I went to Malta.
Dubai. Was it?
No, I didn't. Not this time. Malta. I really wanted to. I was trying to hit most continents, and Malta. I'd never been to Malta. It wasn't in part of my hitchhiking trip that one time. So Malta, did a bunch of diving. Then I went to Ireland. I was trying to add a bunch of countries that I'd never been to, and then I had a different sponsor that wanted me to dive in Ireland. So I went to Ireland. I ended up, the weather was so bad that we didn't dive. So
You're supposed to dive in Safra, like the.
no, that's Iceland. No,
No, that's in Ireland.
where?
Ireland, that's is it Safra or
No, that's
Iceland?
Iceland.
Oh, I'm sorry, that
So I should have. I don't know why I didn't go to Iceland, but
continental.
yeah, I went to Ireland, and then we went to after Ireland, Canada, because I needed a layover because I was going to Caribbean. So some of these were just layovers, but I extended it like a week just so I could check it out. After Canada, I went to Aruba, and then after Aruba, New York to finish. So that was like 14 weeks.
You went to Canada.
Yeah, I said that.
Yeah.
So that was like 14 weeks or something, just non-stop. Land, go find your island, your hotel, dive,
Underwater.
3 dives a day, then leave, fly to the next spot, fly, dive. It sounds awesome, but it was so exhausting. And at night, you're editing videos, you're editing photos, you're writing, because I had deliverables I had to do for the sponsors for every stop. And then, that was one trip, but then I had 12 hours rest in New York,
And then
the next sponsor flew me to Indonesia, and I had like 4 weeks around Indonesia, diving, flying, like so that whole trip I went around the world, connected states to the states, and then had 12 hours off and flew all the way halfway around the world to Indonesia. Flew and dove all around Indonesia for a month or 6 weeks, whatever it was. And then after Indonesia, another sponsor flew me to Malaysia, and I dove around Borneo, Sipadan, all those for like 10 days or something. And then I flew back to Philippines to meet you and rest. I was like, screw that trip. I was so tired.
no, I went to.
If it was just like luxury stays and like not doing anything, just being pampered,
Yeah.
it would have been fine. But I was landing, dive, 3 dives a day,
Fly again.
3 dives a day for 3 to 10 days, and then fly to the next location. It was exhausting, but it was fun.
I cannot imagine. You know.
Yeah.
So okay, next.
You know how you complain about like our 4-hour flights? Well, I was doing
this is your story.
I was
not
doing
my
like 20-hour
story.
flights. So on our 4-hour flights where you're complaining, I'm like, man, I'm just getting comfortable and we arrive.
I want to be a princess when we arrive in that
She's so funny. She'll order like wine because she wants to feel like a princess, and then she's like, I hate wine. She won't even drink it.
So okay, next.
Right, next.
how many countries you have been to now, and do you plan to visit all of them?
I've been to 89 at least once. Most of them many times.
Yeah,
Like Philippines, how many times? Like 20 times. Thailand, 20 times. Mexico.
a lot.
But I haven't made it a priority the last few years to check off new country. I don't think I've been to a new country in a year or two.
Myanmar. You haven't been to Myanmar before,
Yeah,
right?
that was my second time.
Really?
Thailand. Jeez, I don't even know. But when I started traveling with you, it felt like new countries. Like I'd been disenfranchised with travel. I was like, how many more temples can you see? How many more? If you've been to Thailand 20 times, it's not as exciting anymore. It's not. You're like, whatever. Just get through it. Just go. I'm not gonna do a sightseeing tour. I'm just gonna get to where I'm going.
I'm just going
But
to
when I land with you and you're like, it felt like when I first landed in Mozambique or South Africa for the first time.
I'm so mesmerized.
Yeah, when I see it through your eyes, it's exciting again. I'm like, that's why when we landed in Thailand, I wasn't worried about seeing more countries. For me, it was let's go to Cambodia. You're gonna think that's awesome. Let's go to Laos. We went to Vietnam. We went to Indonesia,
Yeah.
Myanmar. It's kind of new for me. Seeing it through your eyes, it's exciting again.
It's different.
I was
though.
definitely disenfranchised and bored, almost desensitized to all this amazing stuff. But seeing it through her eyes, where she's like, "Oh, that's a tuk tuk! Oh my God, what is he doing?" It's exciting again. So, but yeah, to answer your question, one day I would like to cross that off where I've seen every country.
With Given.
I'm taking Kevin for now on.
How about me?
Nah,
Oh my god. Okay, Given.
just Kevin the kitty.
No. Just.
Kevin the cat.
So okay, next, because you're not going to take me then.
Next.
I'm going to ask you another
Kevin,
one.
can you imagine
Kevin
traveling with Kevin?
Yeah. Imagine.
He hates it when I take him to the vet on the tricycle or the tuk tuk.
Okay, next. Oy,
Oh, hurry up.
Okay. What are some things that surprise you that you never thought that you would do?
Almost every single thing I've done
Yeah.
in the
It
last
was
10
just
years.
It was just like a dream for
None
you.
of them were things that I would have been able to
Travel.
predict.
Probably.
So, I mean, if you go to Egypt and it's your first time leaving the country, you're gonna say, "Oh, I'm gonna visit the pyramids. I'm gonna ride a camel. I'm gonna go to Luxor." But when you arrive, you were expecting those little tourist attractions, which you have to see if you love history. But you're not expecting like, "Oh my God, the Red Sea has scuba diving." Everybody I talk to, they're like, "I never thought of scuba diving when I think of
Red
Egypt."
Sea is you're gonna float, right?
No,
Is
that's
that
the
not?
Dead Sea. So when I talk about Egypt having some of the best diving in the world, they're like, Egypt, the desert? Yeah, the Red Sea has better diving than anywhere in America or
What's
Europe.
in there?
I've shown you all the
Yeah.
shipwrecks, all the marine life, the coral reef. It's amazing. So I was like, wow, that's a huge, you're expecting all these other tourist things that you can plan for because it's on the news or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things that you do that you had no idea exist. So I can't think of what I can't think of. Jesus Christ. So I can't think of like certain things that completely surprised me, but I mean, like getting married in a foreign country, I never thought that would happen. I was like, there's no way. But so that's one thing. But I'm sure there's 1,000 things that surprised me that I never knew I could do.
Especially your travels, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
that you're able to
There's some
sustain
things
yourself.
like the tourist attractions, monuments,
Ah, yeah.
historical things you have to see, but then getting to those things, you probably have 10 stories, not just the one.
Yep. So you're a certified traveler.
Next.
Thank you. Okay, next. What are some things that you would like to accomplish in your life?
Oh my god, there's so many.
They'll make one look.
As you know, I'm completely list oriented, checklist achievement oriented.
Bucket list. Is that what you mean?
Oh, I'm so cliche when it comes to the word bucket list, especially after the movie. I have a physically written down bucket list for my life, and check. Just I'm always thinking about those, right? It
Yeah.
drives you crazy. It drives my friends crazy. Oh, that's a pipe dream, but then I go and do it. So, what are some of the major things on my bucket list? I would say visit every country in the world. I have a list of the top 100 dive locations in the world that I want to check off. I think I've done like 40, or 30, 40. That would be a major accomplishment because that's really hard to do. Some really crazy locations, Antarctica, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
I was just like, oh really? Are you going to really like go travel in this place
But
just
I'm
to
glad I
dive?
haven't done it too fast because now that I'm into video and documentary making.
Yeah.
By the way, that's another thing on my bucket list: make a documentary, publish books,
Yeah. What else?
stuff like that. I don't know.
Ebook.
Where's my list? Because I have a list of species that I want to film in the wild, or even just see in the wild. Underwater species mostly, like a ribbon eel and flamboyant cuttlefish, mimic octopus, wonderpuss. The list is over there, but it's massive.
You like slowly getting there. you
Yeah, I'm
know?
glad I didn't go
Taking
too
it
fast
off.
at the beginning when I wasn't documenting anything because
Yeah.
now we're about to finish a documentary about marine life in the Philippines,
Yeah.
and the story is the bucket list, the species bucket, and there's locations list as well. But the backstory, half of the story about the documentary is chasing this list of species I want to film in the wild, and the other half is about the science, the actual species in the Philippines. So I'm glad I didn't go too fast because now I'm not just looking at the species and the locations.
You know already what are you looking for, you know?
Yeah, I know what I'm looking for, but I'm actually documenting it for people to see.
Yeah.
Because for the first however many years of travel, I seen and did some of the craziest shit you could ever imagine, but zero sharing. I didn't even carry a camera, and I have big regrets. I'll write a book about it, but besides that, I could have shared with the world a lot better. And so now I'm glad I'm doing it. And our documentary is my first documentary is almost done.
Yay! I'm so proud of you. I'm looking forward to release that.
So
I
much,
hope so.
so much work. It's definitely
First-
worth a bucket list item because it's not easy.
Yeah, because you're really into like
How many
serious
hours do you
editing.
think we spent underwater just filming this fucking thing?
A lot. I cannot imagine. Like
Hundreds.
I'm
I have over 1,000 dives.
babe,
So for this documentary, hundreds of hours underwater.
babe, I'm so like grateful or amused that once you're going to like write down the animals or the critters or a specific species that you really want to, it just happened that it will going to
Hand me the book.
No.
It's okay.
I can move.
Well, that's another thing. My list started changing a little once I met you. Now, even before we were married, we were together 4 years before we were married. So my life plans kind of changed, and once you started, my passions are travel and scuba. You started traveling, you loved it.
Yeah.
You started scuba diving, which not everybody loves it, so I wasn't sure. You loved it.
Yeah.
You're addicted to it just like I am. And we even have footage of her filming something. Or no, we have
nudie?
footage that she filmed underwater. So now I'm training her to. We want to do more and more courses.
It was a new living.
Yeah, nudie
Yeah.
in Sikihor. It'd be nice if I had. She's traveling with me anyway. It'd be nice if she could help film and stuff like that. So
I really
my goal, my bucket list is changing to where like we are gonna make documentaries and
Not just you,
film
because
every.
me, I have an interest as well.
Yeah,
the-
we're gonna our next documentary.
Snakes, sea snake king.
I'll do the sea snakes. You can do the worms. But we're gonna film a documentary together in Solomon Islands and Indonesia next. Philippines now we're almost finished. So that my list has definitely changed a little.
I'm so sorry. I'm so proud and I'm so happy.
I'm just happy that you like the same things because it would be pretty lonely if I had to do it.
Of course, I'm going to support you all the way. So yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful answers or wonderful chit chat or wonderful conversation. Is that like what you want?
Chit chat.
Chit chat. I know she's like answer and question segment. So thank you so much for again answering those
Sure.
questions. I just have one more question though. I just have one more question to ask you. If you could give advice to 16-year-old you, what would it be?
16-year-old me.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely needed direction. Of course, when I was 16, I knew I wanted to do stuff, but I had no idea what the possibilities. So I would tell myself to start something because, like a blog, for example, or a YouTube channel, whatever you want to do, it takes time. No matter how good you are, how much work you put, that kind of a business takes a lot of time. It took me a lot to make real money and be able to live our dream. So
You're not just going to. The thing is,
imagine
you're
if I would have started the travel blog when I was
The
young.
thing is, you're not just going to
Yeah.
focus on one thing. Like for example.
Okay, not. This is my 16-year-old. You thought your 16-year-old something else. But yeah, if I would have started, imagine if I would have started a YouTube channel
Yeah.
or making documentaries or learning or a travel blog when I was 16, 10 years earlier,
Yeah.
or 12 years earlier.
You're
It
a
would be
billionaire.
huge.
babe.
Oh yeah, I would be. I sold my first blog and made quite a bit of money. So imagine if it was 10 years older and that much bigger. 10
You're
years
a
of.
billionaire in pesos.
Yeah,
but
I wish I would have done.
dollars.
If I would have started something else when I was 16 instead of chasing girls and drinking beer.
Oh my goodness. Go. Just kidding.
Yeah, if I would have started this business, even if I wasn't too active, I was just steadily growing. It would be huge by
So
now.
far, so good. You're doing
Every
a great
YouTuber
job.
on YouTube wishes they would have started 10 years earlier and have that many more subscribers. I guarantee it.
It's not easy to.
Even if it was
Imagine it's not
impossible.
really easy to get that 1,000 subscribers nowadays. It's
Yeah.
not. It's
So
not a
imagine
joke at
if
all.
you grew pretty fast on your channel. Imagine if you started 10 years ago.
Yeah, imagine.
You'd have 100,000 subs.
And during that time, I was like working already in an internet marketing company.
Yeah, we're not in the same position, but that's what I would tell my 16-year-old self to
Yeah, no.
start something because a lot of stuff is going to happen.
This is your story, okay?
or even just start traveling sooner. That would
So,
have been insane.
thank you so much, baby. Huh?
Mm.
I'm so thankful.
Kiss the
that-
cheek and let's go home.
Not chicks because you're tigulang. I'm
Just-
la lula.
just the head.
Just the head.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much, and please don't forget to say something about this video, and also don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And also, if you're not subscribing to my channel yet, please do, and see you later. Bye bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Wonderful tips. Bye
Bye.
bye, Nabil.